Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajana Randana Yashodanandana Brajana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajana Randana Yashodanandana Brajana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Mr. Bad Paramahansa, Dravida Acharya, Ashtotter to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Mr. Bad Paramahansa, Dravida Acharya, Ashtotter to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Krantaraj srimadbhagavatam Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. So I have one question. Does the other mic, the other green mic, have the same amount of static? Let's check it. Because this is unacceptable. There's too much buzz. It's too much. Not going to be good. So we may have Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yeah, seems to be a little better. Are you, I'm sorry? I think it is. Less buzz. Okay. All righty. Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiyat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat yuttama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 26th day of February 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We're on Canto 4 entitled The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 22 entitled Prithu Maharaj's Meeting with the Four Kumaras. Text number 38. Yasmin idam sadasad atmataya vibhati maya viveka viduti swajivahi buddhi tam nitya mukta padishuddha vishuddha tattvam pratyudha karma kalila Prakatim papadye. Yasmin idam sadasadatmataya vibhati maya viveka viduti swajivahi buddhi tang nitya mukta padishuddha vishuddha tattvam pratyudha karma kalila prakatim papadye. Yasmin idam sadasadatmataya vibhati maya viveke viduti swajivahi buddhi tang nitya mukta padishuddha vishuddha tattvam pratyudha karma kalila prakatim papadye. Yasmin idam sadasadatmataya vibhati maya viveke viduti swajivahi buddhi tang nitya mukta padishuddha vishuddha tattvam pratyudha karma kalila prakatim papadye. Yasmin idam sadasadatmataya vibhati maya viveke viduti swajivahi buddhi tang nitya mukta padishuddha vishuddha tattvam pratyudha karma kalila prakritim papadye. Yasmin nidang sadasadatmataya vibhati. Maya viveke viduti swajivahi buddhihi. Tang nitya mukta padishuddha vishuddha tattvam. Pradyudha karma kalila prakritim papadye. Where did that come from? Previous life or something? Pretty good. No, that's okay. No, you did 3 out of 4 is plenty. It's good. Yasmin, in which, idam, this, sadasat, the Supreme Lord and his different energies. Shim, I'll turn it down from the volume a little bit. Thanks. Atmataya, being the root of all cause and effect. Vibhati, he, serpent. Buddhihi, intelligence. Tam, unto him. Nitya, eternally. Mukta, liberated. Parishuddha, uncontaminated. Vishuddha, pure. Tattvam, truth. Pratyudha, transcendental. Karma, fruit of activities. Kalila, impurities. Prakritim, situated in spiritual energy. Papadye, surrender. That's all right. That's better, yeah. Thanks. Translation. The Sanat Kumar speaking to Maharaj Prithu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests himself as one with the cause and effect within this body. But one who has transcended the illusory energy by deliberate consideration, which clears the misconception of a snake for a rope, can understand that the Paramatma is eternally transcendental to the material creation and situated in pure internal energy. Thus the Lord is transcendental to all material contamination. Unto him only must one surrender. Purport. This verse is specifically stated to defy the Mayavad conclusion of oneness without differentiation between the individual soul and the supersoul. The Mayavad conclusion is that the living entity and the supersoul are one. There is no difference. The Mayavadis proclaim that there is no separate existence outside the impersonal Brahman, and that the feeling of separation is Maya, or an illusion, by which one considers a rope to be a snake. The rope and the snake argument is generally offered by the Mayavadi philosophers. Therefore, these words, which represent Vivartavad, are specifically mentioned herein. Vivartavad means the philosophy of illusion, or mistake. Actually, Paramatma, the Supersoul, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is eternally liberated. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is living within this body, along with the individual soul, and this is confirmed in the Vedas. They are likened to 2 friends sitting on the same tree, 2 friendly birds. Yet the Paramatma is above the illusory energy. The illusory energy is called Bahiranga Shakti, or external energy, and the living entity is called Tatastha Shakti, or marginal potency. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the material energy, represented as earth, water, fire, sky, etc., and the spiritual energy, the living entity, are both energies of the Supreme Lord. Even though the energies and the energetic are identical, the living entity, individual soul, being prone to be influenced by the external energy, considers the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be one with himself. The word papadye is also significant in this verse, for it refers to the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita 18:66. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam bhaja. In another place, the Lord says, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavamam papadyate. This papadyate, or sharanam braja, refers to the individual's surrender to the Supersoul. The individual soul, when surrendered, can understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although situated within the heart of the individual soul, is superior to the individual soul. The Lord is always transcendental to the material manifestation, even though it appears that the Lord and the material manifestation are one and the same. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, he is one and different simultaneously. The material energy is a manifestation of his external potency, and since the potency is identical with the potent, it appears that the Lord and the individual soul are one. But actually the individual soul is under the influence of the material energy, and the Lord is always transcendental to it. Unless the Lord is superior to the individual soul, there is no question of prapadya or surrender unto him. This word prapadya refers to the process of devotional service. Simply by non-devotional speculation on the rope and the snake, one cannot approach the absolute truth. Therefore, devotional service is stressed as more important than deliberation or mental speculation to understand the absolute truth. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, one and different, the rope and the snake, Vivartavad, these are all standard expressions that we need to understand. Vivarta means an error. There's an error. And their understanding of the Vedanta Sutra is that it's just one big mistake. That we have, we're Brahman, and we are identifying with what is not, which is this material body, this whole material world. And as soon as we understand through knowledge that we're one with Brahman, and really live in that understanding, then the delusion of the rope and the snake will be cured. The rope and the snake generally means that you mistake a rope for a snake, and therefore you're completely afraid. You know, your heart is palpitating. You try to go quietly around that snake, which is actually just a rope. And all your activities are based on the mistake, the illusion. But as soon as, through knowledge, you understand, oh, it's just a rope, all the fear evaporates. Probably laugh at yourself. How is it so foolish, you know? And you're back to your normal state of blissfully walking through the forest without a care in the world. I guess that's the idea. So the Mayavadis like to apply that analogy to our whole existence here. We've mistaken ourselves to be this body. We've mistaken in this world to be our field of pleasure, field of exploitation. We're the enjoyers, we're the controllers. Everything proceeds from that mistake. It's one mistake after another, based on the original mistake that I'm this body. You know, they share a lot of the same philosophy that we do. But our process, you notice that their process is entirely a mental thing. In other words, if you can, it's just logic. The Vedanta Sutra is Nyaya Prasthana. Nyaya means logic. Nyaya Prasthana means something that you base your life on. You know, prasthana. We have another word, praman, which means evidence that you base your life on. So it's very important to get it right. Get the right shastra and the right guru, and to, you know, that the actual philosophy is being transmitted, and then you can have faith in it and work on it. So this is a key element. If you think Vedanta Sutra preaches Mayavad philosophy because it has been explained that way by the great Acharya, Shankaracharya, then you're off into that direction. And you're trying to achieve, they don't call it nirvana, but liberation and perfection through their impersonal way. And that's why Lord Chaitanya said, Mayavadi bhasi shunale hoi sarvanash. One who hears Mayavad philosophy from a dyed-in-the-wool Mayavadi, everything is lost. It means his bhakti is lost. And, you know, we're warned, even devotees, unless one is, you know, really, you know, Paramahamsa who can can deal with all those intricacies of the philosophy, don't hear it. Don't play around with it, because it can be very convincing. After all, the living entity is trying to be God anyway. We're trying to be our little God. So when you try to justify that, when you have a deep philosophy that yeah, I'm God, that's very enticing, even though you may lose your, form and everything, but still, I'm God. So you can see how attractive that can be. The Vivekananda, he was a very, very brilliant student of Ramakrishna. And he came to America in 1896, I think it was. Was it? No, it couldn't have been that. I think 95. Otherwise, if it was the same year Prabhupada appeared, I would have known that. It's probably 95, something like that, the late part of the 19th century. And there was this big religion conference in Chicago. He addressed it, and people were blown away. Because basically it wasn't, Christian or anything. It was all part of whatever yoga there was, interest in Eastern philosophy. Because there's a whole tradition in the 19th century of what they call transcendentalists, American writers, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Thoreau, and they read the Gita. They actually read the Bhagavad Gita and speculated something about it. Because there was this interest in Indian philosophy. It was coming through the British, who had, of course, were dominating, who were ruling India at the time. So there was a channel for that into American literature and thinkers. So there was some, a certain intelligentsia, people were interested. So he had a big crowd, and he was a very effective speaker. And he was like the one who really introduced a tremendous amount of interest in Eastern philosophy, and it grew from that, and of course culminated in Prabhupada's coming to America, and the rest is history, as they say. But what he was spreading was this Mayavad. It wasn't bhakti. It was no way it was bhakti, And for people to hear, confused people who heard something about this, you are God, you are the absolute, you are Brahman, it was very exciting. They became very interested in the centers in, I think the first one was probably in L.A., the Vedanta Society. This was the Ramakrishna Mission. And a big center was in New York, which I was visiting before I came to Krishna consciousness, to the temple. And it was, it was very, Upper East Side in New York City is where all the rich people live. And they had a center right there in the middle of that. A big place with many stories, maybe like 5 or 6 stories. And a big hall, it looked like a movie theater, and you could sit down, listen to Bhagavad Gita. He spoke from a podium, the speaker, like a Christian priest, not from a Vyasasa. And we were sitting there comfortably in our movie theater chairs. And I was really impressed, And that's so, luckily I was able to get free from that. But, so rope and the snake argument is generally offered by the Mayavadis. Therefore, these words, which represent Vivartavad. Vivartavad means the philosophy that is just a big error. Our separateness from, our sense of separateness from the absolute, it's all a big mistake. Once we understand who we really are, the fear of this world will be over, because we'll know that we're pure spirit, and we'll eventually, merge back into Brahman. But actually, Prabhupada says, the actual truth is not that we're identical with the Paramatma, or that we're identical with, Brahman, the Supreme Brahman, certainly, but that we're one of the energies. And then Prabhupada describes the different energies. There's the Antaranga Shakti. Antaranga means within, internal Shakti. There's the Bahiranga Shakti, which we're very familiar with. All of this earth, water, fire, air, ether, this world. That's Bahiranga, that's external. And then there's the Tatastha Shakti. Tata means on the margin. The example is always given, very, very easy for us to understand. Go walk down to the beach, and you see the waves coming in and then going out. So there's a portion there that's sometimes covered and sometimes free, right? No matter what the tide is, there's always that margin, it's called. So that's where we are, meaning that we are by nature spiritual. We're by nature part of the internal energy. But we're a special part of that internal energy that has the unfortunate capacity to also be covered by the external energy. So this is our choice. We have a certain amount of minute independence because Krishna has infinite independence. And we are identical to him, as Prabhupada says, in the sense that we share not all of his qualities, but 78%, Prabhupada would say 50 out of 64. As living entities, we can develop. And only as human beings can you really develop them, But they're there. We share them with Krishna. And so, but the quantity is, infinite compared to infinitesimal. But we do have those qualities. So one of the qualities is independence, is free will, especially in the human form. Animals, they just work by instinct, basically. But we have a choice. We can decide. Now, we can decide what? Well, the main decision, the really meaningful one, is what energy we're going to be controlled by. We will serve. We're servants. That's our dharma. The question is, what are we going to serve? And which energy to serve is to our best advantage. For eons, we didn't even know we had this choice. We thought our choice is different varieties of material energy. Right? That's the whole idea. Red, blue, this one, that one, I can go here, I can go there. Oh, this is my freedom. Right? This is, no, but you're all within, you're within the prison house. You're within the material energy. And ultimately, it is all unreal in the sense it's like a dream. And at the end of each lifetime, whatever you've done, as a human being, say, or, any organism, it's all gone, didn't mean anything. We place meaning on it, but it really has no meaning because it's all temporary. But the example, again, we can use with the beach. A kid gets into, I used to do this, anyone who had any experience on the beach, to build a sandcastle or whatever, some, structure you wanted to build, right? And you work hard at it, you get absorbed in it, and you're imagining this is happening along, and then it's like your whole creation, right? But then at a certain point, your parents say, okay, it's time to go home, And so you may watch, as your sandcastle is then destroyed by the waves, and it just turns back into sand. So for those few moments, or those, say, an hour, you're absorbed in that sandcastle, and you're probably imagining, there's an attack here, and there's all these kinds of things going on. And that's real for you. You're experiencing some pleasure, some sense of being a creator, But what's the meaning of it? Ultimately, it has no meaning. And even though it's the same phenomenon for those who build, all the buildings in New York City or LA or anything else. It may take a lot more money and a lot of more intelligence and energy and whatever and last longer, but in the end, it's just wiped away. It's wiped away by time. The whole thing just turns back into undifferentiated energy. The earth goes back to the earth, the water goes back to the water, and that merges into the Mahatattva, merges into Mahavishnu, and everything is just static, back to zero. That's really what's going on. It just may take a longer time. So the question is, for every human being, or let me put it this way. In the human form of life, we have an opportunity, the only form of life, we have an opportunity to ask the right questions so that we can change the kind of energy that is influencing us. We want to be totally within the internal energy and see the external energy for what it is. Just Prabhupada would call it a phantasmagoria. I learned this in my editing career that, I always thought phantasmagoria, well, that's obviously a plural, right? But no, it's a singular. So we always put the it's a phantasmagoria, which means it's like the virtual reality things, You get on there and you get so absorbed in it, you think it's real, and that's the whole idea behind it. But then when you take it off, you come back to, quote, reality. But the reality is also a much more skillfully virtual reality machine run by Krishna's external energy, Durga, to completely convince us that we are particular body we're occupying. You can see how ridiculous it is when you just step back a minute. We're in this body for a few years, and we have a certain gender, we have a certain strength, certain money, whatever it is, name, all the qualities that a human being has. But really, they're just pertaining to our particular body and mind. And the body is certainly changing all the time, so is the mind. And at the end of this particular term of this body, it breaks down, finished, and off you go. Could be now you're walking around as a dog in the same development. In other words, you're in the same block somewhere in Indianapolis, but you're a dog now because you're attached to that place. And now, all of that intelligence is crunched down to the dog level, but you're still, your attachment to that place is being. So the whole thing, what's the meaning of it? When you see that, then you understand the absurdity of struggling very hard for any material goal. That's the big trick. That's Maya's trick. So the energy. So we're tatastha, meaning we're on the margin. We're always on the margin. And Prabhupada said, even in the spiritual world, that latent tendency to sense gratification is still there. But for most of it remains latent. In other words, you're never acting on it. You're willfully deciding, by your will, to serve Krishna for his pleasure, to express your love to Krishna. And as long as you decide that, then you're protected from any kind of allurement from the material energy. But as soon as there's a little seed of envy that comes in, then the material energy looks more attractive. Because that's where you can dominate. That's where you can so-called enjoy separate from Krishna. You see? So even in this world, if we're fortunate, we come in touch with the internal energy in the form of the Shastra, the Guru, and the Supersoul. The Supersoul is always trying to give us good instruction. We can't hear it. But if someone comes from outside, or he comes, the Supersoul appears, that's the Guru, and gives us instruction, we can see and we can hear, and especially if we hear Hare Krishna mantra, that's the internal energy, that's Krishna personified in full, Then the purification takes place. And the purification basically begins with more interest, that you've heard that mantra, you tasted the feast, that's another thing that keeps you coming back, Or you met the guru, or a devotee who's fixed in devotion and is blissful and confident, just what you're not. Somehow or other, you're attracted to keep coming back, and that coming back and getting the association is the key, because then the internal energy can continue to work on you and attract it. And you need to also do your part by deciding to take shelter of that energy, even for a few minutes a day. 2 rounds a day. I started 2 rounds a day because I had a job and everything, But those 2 rounds, Hare Krishna, with intense concentration, that keeps you going. So these different energies, the Antaranga Shakti, internal energy, which is very vast, vaster than this. That includes, the Ladini Shakti, Krishna's pleasure energy, personified as Srimati Radharani. Ladini Shakti is prema personified. Love for Krishna. There was a Radha Krishna Pranaya Bhikuti Ladini Shakti Rasmad. That's a verse right at the beginning of the CC. Radha is Krishna Pranaya Bhikuti Ladini, is a transformation of love for Krishna and called Ladini Shakti. Ladini means that which gives pleasure, and here it means gives pleasure to Krishna. Ladini Shakti, the best pleasure, you see. So any service what we may do for Krishna is mediated through Srimati Radharani, actually, ultimately. Because that's what pleases him. That's really all that pleases him, is this reciprocation of loving exchange, and service with his dear devotees. So we've been a long time alienated from that experience, long sleep. Even though we're supposedly awake in the material side, we're still asleep to the reality. So this whole idea of wake up, uttishta jagata prabhavarana bodhita. This is a great line from the Upanishads. Uttishta, get up, jagata, wake up, old sleeping soul. Prapya varan nibodhita. Nibodhita, understand the varan, the benediction that you have as being a human being, that you have attained after long transmigration. Uttishta, jagata, prabhavarana nibodhita. And that song, Jeev Jago, it's one of the most famous songs in ISKCON. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's quoting Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya is shouting to the jivas, the sleeping souls, in this word, wake up, wake up. Jeev Jago, Gora Chandra Bhole, Lord Chaitanya says, you have attained the human form of life, I've come to give you the medicine to cure the disease of birth and death. It's called the Hare Krishna mantra. Now just chant it. This is actually what this movement is about. Yeah, I don't know if you were here on Nityananda's appearance. Were you here on Nityananda? Did you hear that? I gave the poem, So Lord Chaitanya, he deputed Nityananda and Haridas to go out and basically tell everyone, Jeev Jago, Bolo Krishna, Bojo Krishna, Kodo Krishna. Chant Shri Krishna's name, worship him with all your heart, follow his instructions in Bhagavad Gita, like that. Follow his instructions. Chant Shri Krishna's name, worship him with all your heart, follow his instructions, and to others them impart. That's the whole ISKCON movement. That's the whole Lord Chaitanya's movement in a nutshell. He said to Nityananda and Haridas, you tell the people this. And because many of them were Vaishnavas, they took the advice, they said, oh yes, of course, So that's if we can take that instruction to heart, that's a nice little summary of the whole thing. Chant Shri Krishna's name, certainly, it's first. And follow his instructions. Well, what are his instructions? Okay, I got to read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. You find out the instructions, you listen to them. And then you follow them. Think of me, chant my holy name, do your work for me, whatever you can give, you give it. And if you're really serious, give everything, your life and soul, lifetime. It's possible. So the big difference here, Prabhupada said the key word is the prapadye. Prapadye is surrender. You notice, I always like to refer to this verse. You probably notice I refer to it practically every class. When Arjun, stopped arguing with Krishna, presenting his material reason why he didn't want to fight. He wasn't going to fight, But then he's representing a sincere soul who knows that that's not going to solve my problem. I'm very much troubled. I'm torn between what I know is dharma and what I really want to do. That's really, what I know is right and what really I want. So he said, I'm confused. So he approaches Krishna, not as a friend, because they're friends. They're arguing. He's basically arguing with him. And he said, now you're my guru. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava. What that really means is that all of this miserliness that he recognizes, this refusal to fight and surrender, it's a fault, dosha, upahata svabhava, and it has taken away my actual nature. Arjuna is a great fighter. He's the best. So, upahata svabhava. Now I'm requesting you and questioning you. Prichami tvam dharma samudacheta. I who am confused about my dharma, about what's the right thing to do. See, this is one of the great things about the Vedic culture. They're really concerned about dharma. What's the right thing to do? Not just what I want to do. This is human life. When you think there's no God and there's no absolute, then it just becomes whoever has can run the best con and everybody else, and then there's no basis for truth. Notice if you read the first canto, you see that a large part of it is Parikshit talking to these two cows. One is a bull, one is a cow. The cow represents the earth and the bull represents dharma. And this poor bull is limping along on one leg. 3 of his legs have been beaten and broken by Kali Yuga, personified, Kali. And there's 4 pillars of religion: austerity, truthfulness, cleanliness, and mercy. And so austerity and cleanliness and mercy have been practically destroyed by Kali's influence, but truthfulness is still limping along. Because if there's still a place where you can go for truth, then there's some hope of reforming yourself and societies. But once truthfulness is gone, there's no hope. People don't know. And notice that's what's going on today. Nobody knows where to go. Everyone's lying. If everyone is lying, the people you used to trust, what can you rely on? Nothing. Just your own, senses, which are, in other words, people are in great trouble. So Prabhupada came to counteract that with the absolute truth. With the books of truth, beginning with Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is speaking to us, and the pure devotee is explaining what he's saying and making it relevant for our own lives here, right in the 20th century, and giving us a chance to at least do the right thing based on real knowledge, and that's all Arjuna asked for. He said, now, but no, at the end of the verse, he says, Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava. Pritchamitam dharma samucheda. Yakshe yaksya nishchitam bruhitanme. Please tell me for certain. This is the key. Nishchitam, for certain. No more speculation. What is Shreya? What is the ultimate good, and how can I achieve it? That's Shreya. Not some immediate thing that I think is good for me. That's what I'm going on now, and it's not bringing me any peace. Leave the battlefield, not kill my relatives, and go off somewhere. That's not me. That's against my dharma. So he's saying, Shreya Syan, coming to be Nishtitam Bruhitan Me, Shishasteham. It's the key point. Shishasteham. Now I'm your disciple. Now Prabhupada explains this word shishya in several places. Sanskrit is such a scientific language. It's based on roots. Every word has like a 1 or 2 syllable root to it, and many words come up from that, and they're all related to each other based on that root. So the root of the word shishya is the syllable shas, which means control. And what other words with that basis are shastra. You've heard of shastra. You may not have heard of shastra. Notice the long A's and the short A's are so critical. The long A is shastra, and the short A is shastra. And the other word, which is what Arjuna is saying, is shishya. You see, they're the same root. So what is Shastra? Shastra is, of course, the revealed scripture, the word of God, or God's pure representatives. That's Shastra, undistorted, you see. And we're meant to see that as a guide for our living, so that the more that we can live and mold our life according to the rules and regulations of Shastra, then we're on the fast track back to Godhead. So it means I agree to be controlled by the words of Shastra, not my crazy mind. I'm not. This is it. Shastra is a weapon, like a sword. So if you may not agree, but you'll be controlled if someone has a bigger weapon. You see. Shishya means someone who agrees to be controlled voluntarily by the superior person, the real guru. So Arjuna is saying, Shishyasteham, now I'm not going to be your friend. That relationship's not helping us, and we're arguing back and forth. And it happened. The first chapter, he had certain arguments. Krishna says, how has this impotence come upon you? Get up and fight. This is Kshatriya talk. This is the classic thing that the charioteer will say to the warrior if he has cold feet. That's his job, to try to buck him up so he'll fight. But Krishna says, no, I can't fight them. These are my worshipful. Better I go off to the forest. In other words, it wasn't working. So he said, now I'm changing the relationship. Now I'm your shishya. Shishya shadimam. Please instruct me. Tvam papannam. The last word is papannam. The key word is the same word as papadye. Papannam means surrender as a noun. I think papadye is surrender as a verb. It's the basic idea. I surrender. In other words, I surrender my will. You instruct me. Now, it doesn't mean you can't ask questions. Arjuna asked various questions during the time. But at the end, he says, Nashtamoha smriti labda tvatpasaran mayachita gata sandeha karishe vachanang tava. I forget one word in the verse. I'm sorry. I try to memorize it. It's not as easy as it used to be. So he says, my dear Krishna, Nashta moho, my illusion is now destroyed, and tvatpasaran mayachita, by your mercy, I have regained my memory. I've recalled, I'm back in my real self. No more upahata svabhava. And my doubts are now destroyed, and I will stitosmi get the sandeha. That's the third line, I forgot. Stitosmi, I'm fixed. At the beginning he wasn't fixed. He was trembling. He dropped his bow. He was crying. Anything but fixed. Right? He was confused. But I'm fixed in my determination. All my doubts are gone. And then the key phrase, which is the culmination of the whole instruction, Karishe vachanang tava. I will do as you say. That's it. If we can approach Krishna and say Karishe vachanang tava, our life is perfect. You see what I'm saying? It all boils down to that. So the prapadye is the key word, because we're in this mess because we're relying on our own ideas and our own intelligence to figure out what to do in this world. And eventually, and all it does is just keep us more entangled in the intricacies of the material energy. we need to open up the channel to the higher knowledge that's coming down, which is coming down from Krishna through the parampara, through the shastra, into our heart. And that channel is opened by surrender. Surrender your will. Okay, that's what you traditionally do when you join the temple. In the old days, in the early 70s, joining the Hare Krishnas meant moving into one of their centers. I was lucky to move into a very highly populated and exciting, center. Some of them were just houses with a few devotees. I mean, since it all depends on the sincerity. They could also be very enlivening. The main thing is this whole bunch of service right away. I'm still a bhakta. That's all right. We need to get the deities worshipped. And there's and they didn't have it was like that. Usually with Jagannath deities, they'd start with So there's a lot of leeway. Prabhupada did that in San Francisco. He installed Jagannath deities. You know the story? You've heard how Malati was found. So it's the summer of love. Have you heard it? Have you ever heard it? 1967. You never heard it? This is San Francisco. This is the height of the hippie era. Thousands and thousands of young people streaming in from all over the country to get part of that, that LSD and Timothy Leary and all that stuff. And so it was a unique moment in history, in American history. But they're all over the streets and everywhere. I came a year later. This was thank God, I probably would have been swept away by that. But anyway, the K means I visited. I wasn't living there. Anyway, so the first center, Prabhupada arrives, Mukunda and Shyamasundar and I think Gurudas, I don't know if he had come yet, but Malati, that was Shamasundar's wife, and Mukunda was married to Janaki. And they were both, highly qualified guys, I mean, Mukunda was a first-class musician. He trained, he was making it in New York as a jazz musician, And he was just very intelligent. He got the first center. He was able to, go and, find it. So it's a great story. So he had planned to go to India. He hadn't been to India yet, Shyamasundar, Kirtananda and Hayagriva did go to India. And what many devotees don't realize, they went to India on the same boat that took Prabhupada from India to America. Did you know that? The Jaladuta. They went to India, it's a cargo ship, cheap fare, $50, whatever it is, and you go to India, So they went to India looking for a guru. Meanwhile, the gurus come from India on the same boat to New York where they were living. So they go there, and the usual thing, go up to the, Rishikesh, and there. Of course, they didn't find their guru. And they came back to where they were living, and they found their guru there had come in. But so Mukunda, he wanted to go to India. If you had any money, and you would tuned in and turned on, you wanted to go to India and check out the scene there, where all the God was happening, whatever. So he got initiated in New York. He was one of the, I think, first group to be initiated. And so he's leaving the Swamiji. He's leaving Prabhupada. He's going to San Francisco on his way to, and he says, "Yeah, Prabhupada, I want to go to India. I'm going to go to San Francisco." So Prabhupada said, so Mukunda says to Prabhupada, that would be a great place to start a center, San Francisco. Prabhupada, he's giving Prabhupada some advice, he's on his way to India. So Prabhupada said, yes, that would be a great service if you could start a center in San Francisco. But he was planning to go to India. So anyway, now he's torn, because he got initiated. So he goes to see his friend, Shyamasundar, who was living in, I forget, I think Northern California. He had, even in Malati, were living in a little outpost. They were watching for forest fires. It was a job, where you just watch the forest, basically, and see if there's any forest fire, then you call the fire brigade. So they were living alone. So somehow Mukunda found them and came there. And when did Yamuna come on board? I forget. I'm losing the train. But they convinced Shyamasundar and Malati to come down with them to San Francisco and to help start that center. They were talking about how wonderful Prabhupada was, basically. And so Shyamasundar and Malati, they were also into, LSD and, new thing. And so they came down there, and they arranged for a mantra rock dance this is miraculous, because Shyamasundar was very together. He knew some of the band members and this and that, you know. All the famous bands, I'm not going to name them now, but of that era, you know, they're very famous. And so they agreed to play for free at this Avalon Ballroom, I think it was, whatever. Anyway, it was quite a thing. And, you know, Prabhupada came. Of course, he flew in, and he was a star there, you know, and there was all this kirtan, and everyone was huge. And they raised money for the center. So anyway, so then they started this little center right across the street from the park in Haight-Ashbury. I didn't visit that, unfortunately. But so then, you know, Malati, so there's all of this interest in India, you know. So one of the shops had a big barrel. This is the way Malati described it. And in that barrel were all these little figurines. So she stole one. You know, she shoplifted it and brought it back it looked interesting. It was India. It was from India. So she brought one back and brought it about this big, say, you know. And it was Jagannath. It was a little car in Jagannath, you know. They imported it from Puri, probably. So she asked Prabhupada, "What is this, Prabhupada?" And she put it down on the desk. And Prabhupada offers a base and says, "Wow, what is this?" You know. So Prabhupada explained, "Yes, are there any others?" She says, "Yeah, there's some more figures." So she went back. I don't know if she bought the other two or she stole them. So now they have a little set, you know, of Jagannath deities. So Prabhupada and Shyamasundar was a woodworker. So he asked Shyamasundar, "Can you carve big ones of these?" You know, he said, "Sure." So it describes, you know, he was still rough around the edges, you know. So he's carved Jagannath, and he's working on Balaram, and he's smoking. He's still a cigarette smoker. So he put the half-smoked cigarette on the top of Jagannath, you know, lying there, and he's carving it. So Prabhupada comes in and tells him, you know, and so Prabhupada knew from his experience how difficult it is to give up, not his own experience, but he knew from living in the world that it's very hard to give up smoking. So he said, try to reduce one cigarette a day until you can, you know. But that was the first deities, as though Jagannath deities. And there they were set up in this temple, and there's pictures of them. You can see, I can show you. And when the Rath Yatra, you know, Prabhupada said, well, now we can do a Rath Yatra in the summer. Now, meanwhile, Prabhupada went back to New York, and unfortunately he had a stroke at the end of May. And he was almost passed away. He was in the hospital, and he had all the devotees. There was like a little band in San Francisco, and there was a little band in New York, maybe 25 initiated devotees, 30 max, you know, plus a bunch of friends, you know, and chanting constantly through the night and everything for him, you know, and he, of course, survived. There's a whole story. But this surrender means that you recognize that you're in trouble, you need shelter, and you need, you know, guidance, and that's the key word. So Prabhupada refers to the end of the Bhagavad Gita. I'm sorry, it's getting late. I'm holding you. Where 1866, where Krishna says, "Sarvadharma pradija mame kam sharanam braja." Sharanam is a little different from papadya. It includes papadya. It means take shelter of. What is this taking shelter of? It includes, you know, taking instructions from one and taking the instruction into heart and executing it. That's the basic principle of papadya. But it also means recognizing that you're safe there. In other words, if we follow our own mind, we're not safe. You know, it's going to take us into so much danger, you know. But if you follow the instructions of someone who is one, knows the truth, and two, has your best interests at heart. You see how unique that is. Only a pure devotee really can meet those qualifications without any question. There's no question that Prabhupada wanted to exploit us for his benefit. He was doing fine in Vrindavan. He could just sit there and chant Hare Krishna. He came here for us. His only motive was to help us because he knew how essential it was. And he proved it. He took the people who were confused on the street, you know, and in trouble, and gave him Hare Krishna, and gave him the you know, prasadam, and gave him a place, you know, an actual shelter, ashram and sharanam. You can see there's a relation. And, you know, you get your physical health back, you get your mental health back, and you're on your way back to Godhead. You know, not everyone could keep on the course for the rest of their life, but whatever they did is to their eternal benefit. You know the philosophy. So that's sharanam and prapadya, to surrender it emphasizes the idea of, whatever you say, I'll do. And sharana means, yes, whatever you say, I'll do, and I'm taking full shelter, And it can only be actualized with someone who's representing Krishna, because Krishna is the one who really can give shelter in all manifestations, physical, mental, spiritual, everything. So then when we surrender, we can understand the Lord because He reveals Himself. Otherwise, you can speculate from here to eternity, and Krishna will remain hidden. You'll go down this road, that road. It's a Mayavadis. It's a complete dead end. It ends up with you losing your identity, your personality, and just being, I am that I am. And I have no birth, no death. How wonderful. But that's not life. It's boring. It's too boring. You want to have activity. You want to have relationship, lila. So therefore, the way to go is back to Godhead. Okay. All right, it's getting late. Any comments or questions? Go ahead. I'll repeat it. Well, he was torn. But he didn't like that it was his feeling, but he actually kind of knew, like, I'm supposed to be out. He definitely knew that. He was supposed to be. But he had all of these reasons why he didn't want to. And you see, the intelligence is serving the heart or the gut, I mean, he didn't want to kill his worshipable guru, Dronacharya. He certainly didn't want to, the grandfather. Now, Bhishma Dev was a lifelong celibate. How is he the grandfather? Because he took that role with the Pandavas. Their father died, Pandu, so they were raised by their mother, but their mother needed shelter and everything. So Bhishma Dev helped to raise them. So they had tremendous regard for him. He's on the other side. There's a whole reason why he's on the other side, but he was on the other side. So he's the last person that he wants to do any harm to, and there he is, Plus the Dhritarashtra's sons, he felt they're what they called cousin brothers. This term was introduced to us by Prabhupada. They're actually cousins, because in the official sense, if you actually analyze it, they weren't really cousins, because Pandu was not the actual biological father of any of the Pandavas. Did you know that? He died before any of them were born. But because Kunti and Madri were his wives, he had two wives. So Kunti had this power. She pleased Durvasa Muni, and he gave her this mystic power that she could call any demigod. So she's just a young girl, so she tries it out. She calls the sun god. The sun god appears in her room. Hello, Hare Krishna. And so then the idea is, well, you called me, now we have to have a child. What do you mean? I'm a virgin, don't worry. He has the mystic powers. So she gives birth to Karna, who's not a Pandava, but he's a son of Kunti, and he's a brother of Arjuna. So, anyways, a long story about Karna. He appeared, he had these little armor on his body as a little baby, that's like unusual, right? And he became a tremendous fighter, even better than Arjuna. But Kunti had to disown him because he's a virgin, So she put, the story from the Bible where, was it Moses put into the little basket and goes down the Nile River, right? The same thing happens. Puts him in a little basket and down a river, and she's picked up by some Shudra couple and raised, but he's a fighter. He's got the genes and everything, he's a tremendous. So he's on the other side, although Arjuna doesn't know he's his brother, half brother. And each of the so Pandu was cursed. Anyways, this is a long story from the Mahabharata. He's, the Kshatriyas can practice their archery in the forest. So he's out in the forest and he's practicing archery, and he shoots what he thinks is a deer. It was a deer, but it's actually a Brahmin and his wife, who had taken the form of deers for some reason, and he was about to copulate and have a child, but he killed one of them. So I think before he died, the Brahmin cursed Pandu that if you ever have sex again, you'll die, because you killed me when I was about to have sex. So that was, so Pandu's not having sex now, but then eventually he has sex with Madri, and he dies. And so now here's Kunti. So where are the children going to come from? She starts using her powers to call different gods. The first one is Yamaraj, Yeah, and she has, Yudhishthira is actually a son of Yamaraj and Kunti. Then the wind god and Bhima is born. That's the second Pandava. So she's the mother of them all, but the fathers are all these gods. And then Indra is the father of Arjun with Kunti. And the Madri, or I guess Kunti was the one who called the Ashwini Kumars. They're kind of semi-demigods. And they're twins. And I don't know how it worked. Ashwini Kumars. Anyway, then they impregnated Madri, and she gave birth to the twins, Sakala and Nahadev. So those are the 5, 2 twins, and Yudhishthira, Arjun, and Bhima. But notice that none of them are actually the son of Pandu, but they're known as the Pandavas. But it was Pandu whose brother was Dhritarashtra, who had 100 sons by Gandhari. So, in one sense, you say they're cousins. And in those days, cousins would interact and they would live with each other just like brothers. So the same word is sometimes used in Sanskrit. I've seen it. And sisters. Cousin sisters, cousin brothers. The same thing is true with Kamsa and Devaki. They constantly called the sister. He was about to kill his sister, and Vasudev said. But how's the sisters? How are they sister and brother? Kamsa's father is Ugrasen. Devaki's father is Devaka. And Devaka and Ugrasen are brothers. They're cousins. They're cousins. But in the Vedic culture, they grow up together. They're also, they act like, so they're known as cousin sister, cousin brother. So Arjun says, I wouldn't want to live if I had to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, 100 sons. You know, I'd rather not live. They, led by Duryodhana, had conspired to kill the Pandavas in so many ways. The house of lac, they set afire, poisoning, and all this stuff. You know? So just see the heart of the Vaishnava. He's forgiving him entirely and said, oh, I can't live without them. You see the amazing thing. Anyway, so it goes on like that. So this Prapadya refers to the process of devotional service. Simply by non-devotional speculation, no one can approach the absolute truth, because Krishna remains hidden. He only responds to bhakti. You can be the simplest, you can be illiterate, you know, but you're a sincere bhakta chanting Hare Krishna and offering your, simple offerings to him, and you'll have this wonderful revelation, and you'll go back to Godhead. The biggest speculators can read all the Vedas and speculate, and they don't get closer to Krishna. So Prabhupada quotes this one verse, and then we'll end with this, from the often quotes, I don't know if he quoted here. What is it? Atapite deva padambajadvaya prashadalesha anugita evihi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya eko pichadam vichinvan. Now this is chanted by Lord Brahma, you see, in his prayers at chapter 14 of the 10th canto. And this is when he gets a revelation, because it didn't compute that this little boy with the little, the calves and the little fruit and yogurt in his hand is God. He's my father, Narayan, the creator of the universe. So Brahma, is bewildered. He's bewildered. That's the whole thing. Brahma Vimohan means brother. And so he tested. And then, I won't go through the whole thing, but in the end he realized this actually is God, and he offers these prayers. And they're very important prayers, chapter 14. If you're interested, you can read it in the Krishna book. So one of those prayers Prabhupada would always quote, and it's exactly pertinent to this. And that is, Tatte anukam, atapite deva, O Lord, padambraja dvaya, prasada lesha rugita evihi. A lesha is a little fragment. If someone gets a little bit of the mercy of your lotus feet through devotional service, dhyanatvi tattvam bhagavan mahimno, he can know in truth about your glories, O Supreme Personality of God. Bhagavan mahimna. But not others. Nachanya eko picharam pachinvan. Not one other can do that simply by speculating and reading the Vedas, from time immemorial. That's not going to help. There has to be some mercy of yours which is only available through bhakti. This is the whole idea. This whole movement is based on this idea of, the lowest can become the highest just by following this process. And those who are puffed up with their lineage, with their knowledge, with whatever other thing they have, they don't get any closer, although they think they do. They're outside, and that's what's being spoken of here. Okay, I've gone way over time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari.